So today I'm going to make some creamed leek. So we're starting off with having about 6 to 8 medium-sized potatoes. I already quartered them and I put them in water so they're slightly covered. I also added a little bit of salt, and I'm gonna wait until they boil, and then I will reduce the heat on that, making sure that the pot is vented. So you need about 3 good sized stalks. I already cut the bottom off and the dry ends, and you will cut them into slices about this thick. Okay, and you're gonna make sure that you're gonna cut all of it. You're gonna use every single piece of this leek. So as you can see, as you get to the greener part, there's dirt in there. So you're gonna have to make sure that you rinse it out really, really thoroughly. And while you're rinsing it, you may want to like really press through so that you loosen up the rings. So I already prepared some, and we're gonna put that in the pot. And you're gonna need to start out with a pretty big pot, because it looks like a lot, but it will cook down tremendously. So this is all been pre-washed. And again, you want to, the tight rolls, you wanna push through a little bit so that it cooks a little bit more evenly. Leek is in the family of the onions. So if it doesn't cook through very well, it's gonna taste like raw onion. So we really don't want that. We love a little bit of the flavor, but we like more the flavor that comes out after you cook it nicely and tender. So as you can see, I put 3 stalks in there, and it's quite full. So what I want to do now is I want to add some water, and it should be about halfway through the amount of leek that you have, and you're going to start cooking that on high until you hear it boil, and then you're gonna be adding the other ingredients. So make sure it boils first. This meal gets topped off at the end with some sausage, and so for the vegan version, this Italian sausage is really, really good on top of it. But if you don't have that, or if that's not your favorite thing, you could also use any other type of vegan sausage and just slice it and then fry it slightly to top it at the end. So my potatoes are boiling, so I'm going to turn them down some, because I don't want to have a hot mess later on. Whoops, wrong one. To about medium, so they can just boil nicely. In the meantime, I'm going to go over the ingredients list that you're going to need to spice your creamy leek. So I'm going to use a reduced fat coconut milk, just a little healthier option. I will use the Maggi bouillon cubes, the vegetable cubes. I take about 3 of them. I will have some fresh ground pepper. I use Himalayan salt. You will need a little bit of Maggi seasoning and some soy sauce. I also like to add nutmeg. And then you will need some cornstarch, about a quarter of a cup, with water mixed so that you can thicken your sauce later on. So what I usually do is I mix the cornstarch ahead of time, so I have a little bit better control on making it nice and thick and not lumpy. So my leeks actually started to boil, as you can see. And as you can see, the moment they start boiling, they really start getting more dense. So it takes up a lot less room in the pot. So this is the time when I use those bouillon cubes and I just basically crumble it on top of it. And I'm going to start just with 2 since it's really hard to know how much leek you have when you buy it, it's always better to add a little bit more later on. And then you're just gonna stir that. So that they're actually boiling in a nice little broth. And as you can see, they cook fairly quick. So this is a very quick and simple meal. And it's very good on the pocketbook too. Especially if you're buying it in season in the winter. Leek is a lot cheaper then. Okay, so I'm gonna actually reduce the heat a little bit to a good medium. And I can already add my coconut milk. Down to the last drop. I'm gonna stir it a little bit more. I wish you could smell this too, because it smells really, really good. So you might think that this may taste a little bit too much like coconut or have a little sweet taste. Well, I'll tell you what, when I'm done with it, you won't even know that there is coconut milk in there. At this point, I add a little bit of fresh ground pepper, more or less to your taste. And then we're gonna let this simmer with the closed top. Now check on my potatoes. Yeah, they're looking good. So make sure that you always vent the potatoes, because otherwise you're gonna have a hot mess over the stove. They cook much better, and you can actually turn it down to, I'm gonna turn it down to about a 4. Since I made rather smaller pieces, it cooks pretty quickly. So now while I'm waiting on my leek and my potatoes, I am going to start making the Italian sausage a little crispy. Just going to put just a little bit of oil. I'm just going to follow the directions. You don't need much because they're just topping to give it a little extra zing. And so here's actually the part where my not so vegan taste buds will probably add a non-vegan sausage. So that's what makes it super easy when you're cooking for a family where not everybody is on board. You can have the vegan sausage for your true vegans, and then for the people who are not quite there yet, they can still have their animal protein. So right now, as you can see, everything is bubbling really, really beautiful. So I can take the top off. I'm gonna make sure that I stir it some more. And if you do the fork test, the white parts are usually the one that are the hardest. You can already tell it's quite soft. And even the pieces that we didn't take apart so much, okay? So we're almost there with that, which means we're gonna have to get into the final stage. So at this point, I'm gonna add just a little bit of Maggi. I'm gonna stir it again. And now here you wanna try your sauce and make sure that it has enough flavor. Careful, it's hot. Okay, so this one actually could use that third bouillon cube. So again, I'm just gonna crumble it in. So So this is really depending on your taste bud, how sodium rich you want it. I always add just a tiny little bit of Himalayan salt because I like the minerals in it. Okay, and since we're almost done, I'm gonna now have to make sure I thicken my sauce a little bit. So this cornstarch that I mixed with the water, I'm just gonna pour it in. Make sure that your sauce is still boiling, because otherwise it's not thickening very well. And then as you stir it, you can already see how it's thickening. And my sausage is taken off, so I'm going to turn that down some. So at this point, my sauce is thickening pretty nicely. It's really up to you how thick you want it. I don't want it too thick because since I'm serving this over the potatoes, I want the potatoes to kind of soak that in a little bit. So I'm just going to turn this down real quick and cover it up because it's just going to sit there. So I checked my potatoes and drained them. I turned my sausage and I'm ready for the final step on my leek, which is add some fresh ground nutmeg. Of course, you can also do the pre-ground. Give it a final mix. And I am ready to serve. So you're gonna do a couple of potatoes. Top it with a nice heap of leeks. And a couple of slices of sausage. And voila. Guten Appetit.